Hello, and welcome to another BTFO. Today we're going to be talking about Eden, the new 2025 Ron Howard film, starring Sydney Sweeney, Vanessa Kirby, Anna de Armas, Jude Law, Daniel Brunhill, uh, Baron Zemo. I don't know how to say his last name, frankly. Um, but yeah. So this is. I guess I'll get it out of the way right now. It's based on a true story, though I have no context for the true story, and as far as the film plays out, it like 99% of it plays out as though it's like a narrative that has been written. Uh, like it doesn't feel like a based on a true story type movie. For most of it, which I actually quite like. I felt really invested in the characters. Um, and so, I don't know, maybe knowing the actual history will make you like this film less. Maybe it will make you like it more. I have no context for that. Um, the only context I have is just the little, like, end of the film, like, title cards that they give you on, like, oh, this is this person, and, like, this is this person. Um, but, I liked this film quite a bit. Um, I I don't know. It flows really well. To the point where, like, even though it is supposedly based on a true story, it really feels like these are all characters that are written, and like they go on arcs, and we get to explore what they think, and um, like how they navigate this world and stuff, and it's all very interesting. And I would recommend Eden. Um, Basically, it starts off with Jude Law and Vanessa Kirby. They are German scientists who, around 1929, they go to this island in the Galapagos. They're out there to live on their own, and Jude Law, um, Dr. Ritter, um, he he wants to come up with the ultimate philosophy for how humankind should exist. Like what kind of system can humanity actually thrive under? Is it fascism? Is it democracy? Um, is it communism? Like, kind of that sort of idea of like, okay, let's see primarily, like, if we live on our own, what kind of a system can we create and thrive under? Um, and then uh, you get, I'm just going to call him Zemo, uh, but Zemo and Sydney Sweeney, uh, or Margaret, and his son, they travel to the island in 1932, and basically they say, like, hey, look, like, we're really inspired by your story, and like, we basically want to try and do this with you, which I kind of like. There is an element, it's not super explored, but there is an element of Jude Law being kind of interested from like a scientific standpoint of like, oh, okay, this is a different group of settlers. Like, maybe if I like set them on a different path, like I can kind of compare and contrast between my goals and theirs. And But Vanessa Kirby really doesn't like that they're there. She's like, no, this was our isolation. So basically Jude Law sets them up in an area that does have a spring, like natural spring for water, but like it's shown to barely have any water, and like as far as he's aware, you can't form a garden there because it's too high up. The ground's not like fertile enough, and so he basically sets them up there thinking that like, okay, they'll give it maybe like 3 weeks and then be like, all right, we're done, like we're going back to civilization. And Zemo and Margaret, they basically like prove Jude Law wrong. They prove Ritter wrong, and like they actually like make a well and like make a terrace garden, and like they manage to capture a cow, and like Sydney Sweeney becomes pregnant, which is something that Vanessa Kirby's character, she can't become pregnant, or at least her and Jude Law have tried, it just hasn't worked, and so like they end up thriving basically while like Jude Law, Vanessa Kirby, they're surviving. And then it's kind of interesting because then Ana de Armas comes in as the Baroness, and she basically comes in, she's got like a whole posse of guys with her, and like they make it pretty clear up front that she is just fucking all of them. That like that's pretty much why all of them are there, is because they're like, man, Ana de Armas, she's pretty fucking hot, like I'm gonna do what she wants, but she basically like her goal is to build a hotel on this island, and so she basically immediately is like, okay, well, if I want to do that, it would be a lot easier if I was the only one on this island. And so she tries to set Jude Law and Zemo like against each other, which they both catch on to really quickly, and it's kind of fun because like throughout the film, that's basically her character arc, is like Ana de Armas, or the Baroness, she like keeps trying to pit those two against each other, and every time they're like, yeah, I know what you're doing, like what the fuck, like we all know that like you're the one pushing us against each other, like don't do that. Like and like it makes for a really interesting dynamic where like they both know that they're being fucked with, and for the most part like Zemo doesn't really care that there are other people on the island because he's just off like doing his own thing, like he is thriving in this environment, whereas Jude Law is a little bit more on the edge, because a lot of his philosophies are being like challenged, where it's not exactly made clear, but there's an implication that the Baroness let a pig into their like vegetable garden, into Jude Law's vegetable garden, and so he goes from being a vegetarian to he like trades some of his stuff, because like, and that's kind of the interesting thing, is like when we first meet him, he's anti-religion, he's like anti-capitalism, he's a vegan, and or a vegetarian, I guess, and because the pig eats his crop, he basically says, okay, well, like I need to trade for something to eat, and Zemo has like hunted and killed a wild cow, and So he like sees him preparing it, and he's like, okay, well, like, Zemo, can I trade you for that cow's head? And like, Zemo ends up agreeing because he's like, yeah, this guy's kind of like desperate. You know, we've already got like this huge cow for the three of us. Like, it's fine. I'll just trade him. And like, it's kind of interesting because that's where Vanessa Kirby's character starts to become really interesting. Where because she, throughout the film, she kind of keeps trying to push Ritter into like, hey, no, you have your principles, you have your like philosophies on how life should be lived. And throughout the film, basically Ritter's arc is just, he comes like to basically face the facts that like, no, at the end of the day, I need to eat. Like, you know, so if I don't have vegetables, I'm going to eat meat. Like, sorry, but that's the way it is. Like, you know, no amount of principles can feed me. And so he, like, basically throughout the film just keeps compromising on his principles. And you keep noticing Vanessa Kirby, like, noticing that and being disappointed in that. And it's like, oh, that's kind of like, that's a really interesting dynamic that I quite liked. And I liked at one point they have an American, Alan Hancock, who is played by the guy from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and Van Helsing. He plays the bad guy in both of those, M and Dracula respectively. He was really fun in this because they set up right away that basically he's this like super rich American who at the time owns Hollywood, basically. It's really funny where like Ana de Armas's the Baroness, like, it very much tries to seduce him in hopes that he will like give her all of the supplies, because she is basically constantly running low because she is just the spoiled brat. And so like you know, despite the guys working for her, like, she ends up with nothing. And it's kind of interesting where I like that basically the guys who work for her end up like leaving the story one by one as they basically lose their shit with her, where like you've got the guy who like digs all these different holes trying to make a well and just can't do it. Like, he keeps hitting like bedrock. So then she's like, oh, well, like, maybe I'm gonna stop fucking you if you can't build me a well. And he's like, okay, fine, fuck you, like, I'm leaving. Like, so she's like trying to get all the supplies from Alan Hancock. And I really like that Alan Hancock basically says to her, like, he's like, look, like, I know a lot of actors, you know, like, I own Hollywood. I'm not falling for your act. Like, you know, like, I can spot like a con woman from a million miles away. He's like, look, I like the Baroness for like the movie that I'm making. You know, she's an interesting character. But like, no, I'm not gonna fucking sleep with you, you fucking bitch. Like, it's a really satisfying moment in the movie. But yeah, and then the third act is really interesting, where basically you see Ritter and Zemo team up. They're like, okay, yeah, we've had enough of the Baroness, because she like once again is trying to pit them against each other, and in a way that like really pisses them both off. And so they end up like getting in a fight, and it's really kind of interesting to me because I I could see people saying that the third act drags on a bit, but I actually think the third act is like very necessary. Like it follows on from the events. Like, you know, shows us that, like, no, that was a resolution to a conflict, but like you have to follow on with what happens next. So like the third act, or the I guess the third act, like, or the second third act is just like Ritter and Zemo, Margaret and Vanessa Kirby, like, kind of all pitted against each other, like playing this game of like cat and mouse or chess to try and like one up each other, see who comes out on top. It's all done in like a really interesting way. Yeah, basically, I really like Eden. I would really recommend that you go see it. It's really good. I will say, acting wise, I think everyone does a fairly okay job. The only thing that's a little weird is the accents, because everyone but Anna de Armas is like doing a German accent, which for the most part is okay. Obviously, Zemo, he does the best because he's actually a German actor. But like Sydney Sweeney's can sound a little odd in places. Like, there were some times where I thought, is she supposed to be an English girl? And I think that's probably because she was trying to replicate Jude Law doing a German accent, and like Jude Law's German accent sounds pretty good for the most part, but slips into his English accent every so often. And so I think that's where Sydney Sweeney's kind of slips into that English accent every so often. And then Anna de Armas, I'm not sure what her accent was supposed to be, because I think it was supposed to be French, but it sounds very similar to like the German accents. And like, I also thought at some points they might be just using her natural Spanish accent, which I will say is kind of weird, because I think Anna de Armas stands out as like the standout performance in this. She's really good at like playing a multifaceted character who is like trying to use her sensuality to like overtake these other people, and does it in a really fun way where it's like, yeah, I like watching her, but at the same time it's really fun to watch her get her comeuppance. Like, she's a really fun person to hate. I would say that she was probably the standout performance from this, though I think everyone did a good job. Basically, I would recommend Eden. I really ended up liking this movie, and I'm glad that I got to see it. So yeah, go check it out. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.